I noticed it first in the way she started saying goodnight. Not the words themselves, the timing, the distance. The fact that she said it while already turning away, like she was closing a door she didn't want to reopen. My wife, Hannah, and I had been married for 9 years. We lived in a quiet neighborhood outside Columbus, the kind with trimmed lawns and porch lights that flick on at dusk. We weren't the loud, social couple. We were the steady kind. Saturday errands, Sunday meal prep, a shared calendar on the fridge with color-coded reminders. I used to think routine was proof of commitment. Now I know routine can also be camouflage. It started in late October when the days got shorter and the air smelled like wet leaves. Hannah had just switched positions within her company. Same place, different team, more responsibility, better pay. She was proud of it, and I was proud of her. We celebrated with dinner at a little Italian spot downtown, clinking glasses and talking about the future like it was something we owned. For a while, everything was normal. Then one night, while we were watching a show on the couch, her phone buzzed. She glanced down and smiled, quick, almost involuntary. When she realized I'd seen it, she cleared her throat and flipped the phone over, screen against the cushion. "Work?" I asked, casual. "Yeah," she said, "just a group chat." I nodded and let it go. That's what trust looks like, I told myself. You don't interrogate your spouse over a smile. But the smiles kept happening. Not big ones, not obvious ones. Little flashes of amusement that appeared and disappeared, like she was catching herself. Sometimes she'd step into the hallway to answer a call. Sometimes she'd angle her screen away when she texted. Sometimes she'd laugh softly and then glance at me like she'd been caught doing something wrong. I tried to ignore it. The world is full of distractions. People have private thoughts. Hannah was allowed to have parts of her life that didn't involve me. Still, I started noticing other things too. She began dressing differently for work. Nothing extreme, but sharper. A little more effort. A new perfume I didn't recognize. She'd stand in front of the mirror longer, smoothing her hair, adjusting her blouse, checking her lipstick like it mattered more than it used to. When I complimented her, she smiled, but it felt distracted. "New look?" I asked one morning as she slipped on a jacket. "Just trying to be more put together," she said. "It's a more client-facing role." That made sense. It was reasonable. But then came the late nights. At first, it was once a week. "We're swamped," she said. "I'm staying a little late." Then it became twice a week, then 3. She'd text around 6. "Running behind. Don't wait for dinner." She'd come home after 9, sometimes after 10, cheeks flushed from the cold, smelling like she'd been in a warm place with other people. I'd ask how her day was. She'd say, "Long," and then she'd shower and crawl into bed with her back turned. Our conversation shrank. Not all at once, slowly, like someone reducing the volume on a radio until you don't realize the music is gone. It wasn't that she stopped talking entirely. It was that she stopped sharing. She stopped offering details, stopped telling me stories, stopped letting me into the little moments that used to make our lives feel connected. I told myself it was stress. Then I told myself it was seasonal depression. Then I told myself it was me, that I was imagining problems because work had been rough for me too, and I needed something to blame. But my body didn't buy my explanations. My stomach tightened whenever her phone buzzed. My chest went cold whenever she said she'd be late. My mind started replaying small moments with new suspicion. The first real jolt came on a Friday night in November. We had plans to meet friends for drinks. Nothing big, just a casual get-together. Hannah had agreed earlier in the week. We'd even joked about what we'd wear. At 5:30, she called. "Hey," she said, voice shamed. "I'm so sorry. Something came up." "What kind of something?" I asked, already knowing the answer. "A last-minute meeting," she said quickly. "It's important. I can't get out of it." "On a Friday night?" Silence. "It's complicated," she said. "I'll make it up to you." I stared at the wall, trying to keep my voice calm. "Okay, I'll tell them you can't make it." "Thank you," she said, relief in her tone that felt like a punch. "I love you." She hung up before I could respond. I went to the bar alone that night and lied for her without even thinking. "Work emergency," I said, and our friends nodded sympathetically like it was normal. On the drive home, the rain was coming down in sheets, headlights smeared into white streaks on the road. I kept seeing her face in my mind,
Not the apologetic one she used on the phone, but the relieved one. The one that said she'd escaped something she didn't want to do. When I walked into the house, it was dark and quiet. The dog lifted his head, thumped his tail, and went back to sleep. Hannah wasn't home. At first, I thought she really was stuck at work, so I waited. 10 became 11, 11 became midnight. At 12:14 a.m., I heard her car in the driveway. I didn't rush to the door. I stayed on the couch, the TV muted, the room lit only by a lamp. I wanted to see her expression when she walked in, before she had time to shape it. The door opened. Hannah stepped inside, shaking rain off her coat. She stopped when she saw me. "Oh," she said softly. "You're still up." "Yeah," I replied. "How was the meeting?" Her eyes flicked away. "Long." "You said it was work," I said. "You smell like a bar." Her shoulders tensed. "We went out after, the team, to decompress." "What team?" I asked, still calm, though my heart was hammering. "You didn't tell me there was a team dinner." She exhaled, annoyed now. "Daniel, can we not do this? I'm exhausted." Something in her tone, sharp, defensive, made me feel like I'd done something wrong by asking, like I was the problem for being awake. "Sure," I said quietly. "Go to bed." She walked past me without touching my shoulder, without apologizing again, without a second glance. That night, I lay in bed next to her and listened to her breathe. She fell asleep quickly. I didn't. I stared into the darkness and realized I was afraid. Not of losing her. Not yet. Afraid of the moment I would finally know for sure. Because once you know, you can't go back. The next weeks were a slow unraveling. She started taking phone calls in the garage, standing beside the washing machine like it was the only place in the house where sound couldn't reach me. When I walked in once, she flinched and ended the call immediately. "Who was that?" I asked. "Just work," she said, too fast. She began keeping her laptop with her even when she went to the kitchen. She changed her password, something she'd never done before. "Did you change your password?" I asked one evening, trying to sound casual. "Yeah," she said, eyes on her screen. "IT required it." Another reasonable explanation. Reasonable explanations can be weapons when they're used to cut down your instincts. Then, the day before Thanksgiving, I saw the name. I was in the kitchen, chopping onions, when Hannah's phone buzzed on the counter. She'd left it there by accident, like her guard had slipped for 1 second. The screen lit up with a notification. "Mark, are we still on for tomorrow?" My hand froze mid-chop. The onion smell burned my eyes, but I didn't blink. Mark. I knew a Mark, technically. Hannah had mentioned a Mark once, months ago, as someone on a different team who helped with a project. It was a throwaway detail, the kind I wouldn't remember if it didn't suddenly feel like a key. Before I could think, the phone buzzed again. "Mark, I can't wait to see you." My throat went dry. I didn't pick up the phone. I didn't open it. I just stared at those words and felt my entire body go cold. Hannah walked in a moment later, saw the screen, and snatched the phone so fast it was like she'd been burned. "What's wrong?" she asked, voice too bright. I wiped my hands on a towel, forcing myself to breathe. "Who's Mark?" She blinked. "What?" "Mark," I repeated. "The guy texting you." Her face shifted, just slightly, a flicker up. "Oh," she said, laughing lightly. "Mark from work. He's annoying. He always sends dramatic messages." "I can't wait to see you is dramatic?" I said. Hannah's laugh sharpened. "It's about the client presentation tomorrow. He's excited. Can we not turn everything into something?" Everything. That word. Like this was a pattern. Like I'd been unreasonable before. Like I was the suspicious husband who needed to chill. I noted slowly. Sure, just curious. She watched me for a second, then looked away, thumbs moving on her phone. I went back to chopping onions, my hands shaking. That night, I couldn't eat. I pushed food around my plate and pretended I wasn't thinking about Mark's name glowing on her screen. Thanksgiving came and went, filled with forced smiles and family chatter. Hannah played the role perfectly. She laughed with my sister, helped my mom with dishes, told stories about work that were vague enough to be safe. I watched her across the table, this woman I'd built a life with, and wondered what else she could perform without me noticing. 2 days later, she said she needed to go into the office on Saturday for a few hours. "I'll be back by noon," she
Promised. She left at 9:30, dressed nicer than necessary for a weekend office visit, hair styled, makeup done, that same unfamiliar perfume. At 11:45, I got a text. "Running late, might grab lunch after. Don't wait." I didn't reply. I didn't sit still either. I drove to her office. I'm not proud of it. I hated myself as I turned onto the familiar street, my hands gripping the wheel too tightly. I felt like someone I didn't recognize, paranoid, desperate, pathetic. Her company building was mostly empty on weekends. The parking lot should have been nearly clear. But I spotted her car. Near the far end, away from the entrance, like she'd chosen a spot where it wouldn't be noticed. My heart pounded so loud it felt like it might drown out my thoughts. I parked across the lot and waited. 5 minutes passed. 10. Then I saw them. A man in a dark coat walked out of the building with her. He was tall, confident, moving like he belonged beside her. Hannah laughed at something he said, head tilted back, hair catching the pale winter light. They weren't touching. Not yet. But the space between them was intimate, like it didn't need contact to be obvious. They reached her car. He leaned closer, and she didn't step away. Then his hand touched her lower back, lightly, familiarly. Hannah smiled. Not the polite smile she gave strangers, the private smile she used to give me. My lungs forgot how to work. I couldn't hear anything from where I sat, but I didn't need sound. Their body language spoke clearly enough. He said something. She laughed again, then looked around the lot. She didn't see me. He leaned in and kissed her. It wasn't a quick peck. It was deliberate, comfortable, like something they'd done before. My vision tunneled. For a second, I thought I might throw up right there in the car. When they pulled apart, Hannah touched his face like it was the most natural thing in the world. Then she got into her car and drove away. He watched her go, hands in his pockets, then turned back toward the building. I sat there, frozen, while my entire life rearranged itself into a new shape. I'd wanted proof. Now I had it. And proof doesn't bring relief. It brings grief. I drove home on autopilot, hands numb on the steering wheel. The world looked the same. Trees, houses, people going about their Saturday, while my insides felt like they'd been scraped raw. When I got home, I walked into the quiet house and stood in the living room like a stranger. The dog looked up at me, confused by my stillness. I sat down and waited. At 2:18 p.m., Hannah walked in, carrying a takeout bag. "Hey," she said, cheerful. "Sorry, it ran long. I brought you—" She stopped mid-sentence when she saw my face. "What happened?" she asked, voice dropping. I didn't answer immediately. I watched her set the bag down slowly, her smile fading into caution. "I went to your office," I said finally. Her eyes widened. "Why would you do that?" "I saw you," I said, each word heavy. "With Mark." Her face went pale so quickly it was almost impressive. "No," she whispered, shaking her head, like denial could erase the image burned into my mind. "Daniel, please." "I saw him kiss you," I said, "in the parking lot." Silence. Not the kind filled with excuses, the kind filled with reality. Hannah's shoulders slumped. She covered her mouth with her hand, eyes filling with tears. "It's not what you think," she said weakly. I laughed, one sharp sound. "What do I think, Hannah? That my wife is meeting a coworker for lunch and accidentally kissed him for fun?" She sobbed then, real tears spilling down her cheeks. "I didn't mean for it to happen." That line, the classic one. "Then how did it happen?" I asked, voice shaking now. "Explain it like I'm stupid."
She sank into a chair, hands trembling. It started as talking. He was just easy to be around. He listened. I stared at her. And I don't? It's not that, she said, crying harder. I don't know. I felt invisible. You're always tired, always stressed. We're like roommates. The words stung because a part of me recognized the truth in them. But loneliness isn't an excuse for betrayal. We could have fixed that, I said quietly. You could have told me. You could have asked for counseling. You could have fought for us. She shook her head. I was scared. And sleeping with him wasn't scary? I asked. Her sobs quieted. That was my answer. I felt something inside me collapse, like a wall finally giving out. How long? I asked. She hesitated, then whispered, Since September. 3 months. 3 months of lies disguised as late nights. Do you love him? I asked, not sure why I needed to hear it. Hannah looked down. I don't know. That was worse than yes. I stood up, legs unsteady. I need you to leave tonight. Her head snapped up. What? Daniel, no, please. I'll end it. I swear. I'll block him. I'll do anything. Anything? After she'd already done the one thing that mattered. I can't look at you right now, I said, my voice low and raw. I can't share a bed with you. Not after what I saw. She reached for me, but I stepped back like her touch would burn. Please, she cried. Don't do this. I'm not doing this, I said. You did. Hannah packed a bag through tears. She tried to talk, to explain, to plead. I stayed quiet because every word felt like it would break me open further. When she left, the house went still. Not peaceful, just empty. The first night alone was the hardest. The silence was loud. Every creak of the house sounded like a memory. I walked from room to room like I expected to find the old version of our life tucked away somewhere. I didn't sleep. I sat on the couch until dawn, replaying the parking lot scene until it looped endlessly behind my eyes. Over the next week, Hannah called constantly, texted long apologies, left voicemails filled with sobs and promises. She said she'd ended it with Mark, said she hated herself, said she wanted to fix us. I believed she hated herself. I even believed she wanted to fix us. But wanting isn't enough when trust is gone. I met with a therapist alone because I needed a place where I could say it out loud without collapsing. My wife cheated, I told a stranger in a quiet office, and hearing the words made them real in a way I wasn't prepared for. The therapist asked me what I wanted. Not what Hannah wanted, not what our families expected. What I wanted. The answer was simple and terrifying. I wanted to stop feeling like I was competing for my own wife. Weeks passed. Hannah moved into her sister's place. We communicated through short, logistical messages at first. Then she asked if we could meet. I agreed, not because I was ready to forgive, but because I needed closure. We met at a coffee shop halfway between our places, neutral ground. She looked exhausted, eyes puffy, hair pulled back like she hadn't cared to impress anyone. I ended it, she said immediately. I blocked him. I told HR I'm switching teams. I'll do whatever you need. I studied her face, searching for the woman I'd trusted. I believe you, I said softly. Hope flickered in her eyes. But it doesn't change what happened, I added. Her expression crumpled. I made a mistake. Mistakes are forgetting an anniversary, I said. This was a choice, over and over. She started crying again. I was lonely. I exhaled, feeling tired in my bones. So was I sometimes. I didn't cheat. She reached across the table. Can we try counseling? Please, I'll fight for us now. I looked at her hand, then at mine, resting on the table. Hands that used to fit together perfectly. I don't know if I can, I admitted. Every time I picture you, I see that parking lot. Hannah covered her mouth, shaking. I'm so sorry. I nodded, because I knew she meant it, and that was the tragedy. Sometimes regret comes too late to matter. After that meeting, I went home and sat in my car for a long time before going inside. The sky was gray, low and heavy, like it wanted to snow but couldn't commit. I realized something that hurt to admit. I still loved her, but love alone doesn't rebuild safety. In December, I filed for separation. The paperwork felt clinical compared to the pain, like my marriage was being reduced to forms and signatures. Hannah begged me to reconsider. I didn't. Not because I hated her, but because staying would have required me to silence
my own dignity. The last time she came to the house to pick up more of her things, she stood in the hallway and looked around like she was seeing our life from the outside for the first time. "I never wanted this," she whispered. I swallowed hard. Neither did I. She stepped closer. "Do you think you'll ever forgive me?" I paused. Forgiveness is a complicated word. People throw it around like it's a switch you flip and suddenly you're free. "I think I'll forgive you someday," I said honestly, "for my own peace." Her eyes filled with tears again. "And us?" I looked at the walls, the photos, the quiet house that used to feel like a shared future. "I don't know if us exists anymore," I said. She nodded slowly, like she'd expected that answer, and that made it worse. When she left, I stood in the doorway and watched her car disappear down the street. The porch light flickered on automatically as the sun dropped, like nothing in the world had changed. But everything had. The weeks that followed were brutal and strangely clarifying. I learned how to cook for one, learned how to sleep in the middle of the bed without reaching for someone who wasn't there, learned that some songs will wreck you in a grocery store aisle, and you'll have to pretend you're fine in front of strangers. I also learned that pain can be honest, and honesty, even when it hurts, is better than living in a lie. If you're listening to this and you're ignoring the signs because you're afraid of what you might find, I understand. I was there. But here's the truth I wish someone had told me sooner. Trust isn't something you should have to beg for. Love isn't supposed to feel like a guessing game. And if someone is careful in a way love never requires, it's okay to ask why. Because the moment you stop asking is the moment you start disappearing from your own life. I didn't want to be the man who drove to a parking lot to watch his wife kiss another man. But I also don't want to be the man who pretends he didn't see it. Walking away didn't make me strong overnight. It didn't erase the years. It didn't undo the memories. But it gave me something I hadn't felt in months. Clarity. And in the end, clarity is what saved me.